Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Colwood for YouTube. Resident underslash of underslash Colwood for BitChute. And I'm here to do two videos tonight. My first video is a Dark Shadows video. And this video is entitled, Could Dark Shadows be brought back through a spinoff? And I think that answer is yes. In my opinion, Dark Shadows could be brought back through a spinoff. Now, what would you have to do for that to work? I think you would have to take at least one character from the original series and make an individual series about that character. And I think the best character to really do that with, to sort of get back to Collinsport, would be Chris Jennings. Chris Jennings, mind you, he's still a werewolf. He still has to beware of the full moon. He's out there somewhere with Amy and that other girl, I forget her name. And when they left Collinsport, they left together. Now, what would I say about the other two characters who went with him? I would say at some point in time, the danger became too much for Chris, that he felt he was putting their lives in too much danger, and they were getting older, and he was just, how do you explain being a werewolf to younger kids, right? How do you explain that in the modern day world? Oh, hey, I'm a werewolf. Could you see that explanation being done, right? So I think eventually he would have went searching for a cure on his own. He would have went out on his own to try to search for a cure. He would have knew where they always were. He would have left them knowing where they were. And, time would have went on. They would have had a family. Amy would have got married and had kids of her own. Meanwhile, Chris is just searching and searching, and he doesn't really know what he's looking for. He's just searching for some kind of hope, a cure, anything that could get rid of this, right? And I think, how long should this spinoff last? I think exactly 2 or 3 seasons. Definitely 3 at the most. And the first season would be where exactly he left Amy and them, where and when. That's what the first season would be. And then the next season, the rest of the first season, and then the second season, he's drifting. He's literally a drifter, and because he knows the full moon's gonna come, he does not want to hurt anybody. So he keeps himself as far away from huge populations as much as possible. He's out, in the wilderness and stuff. And when he does change into the wolf and people shoot it, they think they're seeing Bigfoot or something. Finally, I would have Chris eventually be in Germany. And he would just be there looking for a cure. And Germany actually has a legend about the first werewolf. There was a legend about a man turning into a werewolf. And Chris finds out about this, and he goes to Germany. He stays there, and he finds the person's body, and he starts digging it up to see if this is real, see if this is legitimate. He knows his case is legitimate, but he's not sure if this guy's case was, again, because it's according to legend. And the guy's bone structure isn't like a normal bone structure. It looks like a wolf. So Chris is convinced, hey, this guy was the real deal. He was a werewolf. Lo and behold, in Collinsport, in Collinwood, a member of the Collins family has become not just a doctor, but a doctor in stem cell research, right? And in that, you know, she's created this way to sort of test certain stem cells with animal and man. And that's music to, when Chris hears this, it's music to his ears. And that's his return to Collinsport. He's bringing the bones of that man to sort of her to research them in hopes to finally be rid of this. And Chris's return causes all sorts of things. Think about it. No one has seen Chris Jennings for years and years. Everybody Chris would know would be gone, so no one knows who he really is. And when he comes back, people, who are you? Well, I'm Chris Jennings. Okay, but who are you? The name sounds familiar. I've heard through stories, but are you his son? No. I'm Chris Jennings. I'm the Chris Jennings. I think it would be interesting to see if they could pull this off, and I definitely think they could. Who would I get to play Chris Jennings? That's so tough. I kept racking my brain to think about this. I wouldn't cast a huge name with this because I think casting too huge of a name just wouldn't be right. I think I would try to find somebody who was, mature enough to be Chris Jennings. And I'm gonna probably butcher this actor's name. Ryan Egghead, the guy that plays Tom on The Blacklist. I cannot pronounce his last name, but if you know who I mean, then good. I really do think they could do this. Now, what would the pros and cons be? I think the biggest pro would be you have a known character in Chris Jennings. The con would be for your newer audience, you do have to explain who Chris Jennings was and is. So I don't think it would be a too far-fetched explanation. Look, Chris Jennings is a werewolf. This is how it happened. The gypsies cursed Quentin, and Quentin is a descendant of, Chris is a descendant of Quentin's. Quentin, we know the portrait, right? We don't have to get into Quentin too much. We have to get into why Chris is cursed. So, and it's through Quentin, and he's a descendant of Quentin. I do think they could do this real easily. Now, the big question is to me, could they do more than 3 seasons? Yeah, they could. If Chris is a drifter and he's trying to avoid large populations, I think that would be the start, really the key to this. At first, he's trying to avoid large populations. But again, he needs to have food and stuff when he's human. I do think there's many things you could also do with the series. You could have him get captured. You could have him, who knows? There's so many things you could do with Dark Shadows, not just from the series standpoint, but from a spin-off standpoint. And Chris Jennings would be that one character you could definitely do. Would there be questions going into this about other characters? I think my biggest question would be with this, especially with Quentin, pertaining to Quentin, would be, is Count Patofi still alive? I've always felt yes, but again, that's a whole nother discussion for another day. So I do think that Chris's return could happen quite easily. It just could. And I do think you could have one of the Collins family members be a doctor. It would be very, very simple and very believable. Now, would they do this? I don't know. I can't sit here and say they would or wouldn't, and I'm not going to sit here and say they will, and then they won't, or they won't, but then they turn around and do. Again, something I stressed in my previous video that I did. Warner Brothers, they have to really decide what they want to do with this series as a whole. Whether it's a series, TV series, whether it's a movie, they need to sit there and decide, okay, Dark Shadows, what's our best course of action with this? Where can we put this, and how can we make it successful? How can we make this a franchise that is going to be not only as good as the original, but even better for today's audience? And I think that's maybe something they're definitely going to focus on too, is today's audience. That's something I hope they really aim for no matter what they do. Dark Shadows fans, I think we're going to be there no matter what. We're going to watch what they put in front of us, because we're just loyal fans and we love the product. We love Dark Shadows to death. But I think they need to always achieve their newer audience and get them to come along too and find their new audience, really. So I do think Chris could be a character they could use for a spin-off series, an individual spin-off that leads to the return of to Collinsport, sorry. Would there be a Barnabas? I don't know. I think if you did a spin-off, maybe the twist could be that the girl, the doctor, the Collins who's a doctor, somehow has Dr. Hoffman's notes and has vials of blood, and those vials belong to Barnabas Collins. That could be a huge twist, a plot twist you could do. Again, I want to see something. And, I'm just excited. I'm hopeful, and that's just where I'm at. I'm hopeful of what we could potentially see, no matter what that is, no matter what that turns out to be, even if it's just a reboot. I'm hopeful of what we could and will see, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on what you thought of my spin-off thing, and who would you use? Is there a character you think could have an individual spin-off that could lead to the return of Collinsport, that could lead back? Definitely want to hear from you guys. I'll tag you guys in this. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos and coming on here and just talking. And again, it's 2021 for me is hope that we get not just some sort of normal back, that we get some huge Dark Shadows news, and that we hear something that I think will make us all excited when we hear we're getting Dark Shadows back, no matter how. I think we'll just all be like, yeah. So I know I will be. I know I'll be happy. Once we hear that news, I think I'll just be ecstatic. So I'll probably hug my wife and not let go for like an hour. I'll probably be squeezing her. So all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you here real soon.